Hey there, I guess you thought you weren't going to have to put up with old Hoochie Coochie today. Too bad. Here I am. I want to talk to you a few minutes about sheet music. It's been around several hundred years, but it took musicians quite a few years to figure it out. In fact, it took several hundred years to figure out how to come up with some sheet music that was halfway decent and usable. They tried and tried and tried. Well, by about 1500, they had created a form of sheet music that they could use, but by modern standards it was pretty primitive. I've got a piece here that I bought in an antique shop a good many years ago. This is an authentic piece of sheet music from about 1550. It's on parchment paper and it makes no sense to me. I can't read it. I don't have any idea what all little squiggles and squares mean. This was a piece of music to be sung in church. So as far as a modern musician trying to use this sheet music, it would be almost impossible. However, by about 1600, 1650, they had continued to work on sheet music and it had reached pretty much its modern form. The sheet music used in the 1600s and 1700s did not look a whole lot different and function much differently from sheet music we use today. However, the methods of creating it were rather primitive. They had to write it all out by hand, usually with a feather, a goose feather that they would dip in ink. It was a real tedious way to write music, especially the music for a long composition that might go on for page and page and page and have thousands of notes. It took a long time to write out that sheet music. And the copies I've seen of that in photographs and in museums was real trashy looking. You could tell they were trying to write real fast and the notes were not placed precisely. And it was hard to read. However, by about 1800, somebody came up with a machine that could print sheet music like a printing press could print books. And so compared to using a feather, this was great. You could create a song or a piece of piano music or whatever kind of music you wanted to write, and within a matter of days you could print thousands and thousands of copies. This opened up a new stream of income for musicians, especially for those who were composing music, who were writing songs and piano pieces. During the 1800s, music was a prime form of entertainment. However, since there were no recordings, obviously, all the music was live. And when families had guests over, they liked to entertain with music, and typically somebody in the family learned to play the piano or sing, sometimes both of those, and musicians would perform live music for entertainment. And of course the professional musicians were performing for concerts and in palaces and places like that. And so there was a market for sheet music. These amateur musicians in particular had to have sheet music to play from, so musicians that could write and create music that turned out to be popular were doing all right, selling sheet music. And this continued for 100 years or so until the recording industry created a music for entertainment purposes that did not require live musicians. Radio and TV and recordings offered the public as a whole the opportunity to have music for entertainment without having to have a live musician to play it for them. Now, in today, professional musicians still use music. Some church choirs use music. However, the majority of the population of the world has practically no use for sheet music. I don't know of any of my close friends other than my music friends, my professional music friends, who read music. And maybe you don't read music either. If you do, if you can pick up a piece of sheet music and it makes any sense to you, you're one of a few. There are not many people who can read music nowadays. A lot of people that go to church and pick up a songbook may be looking at a page that has the notes and the words to the music, to the hymn or whatever, the gospel song or whatever. But most people don't read the notes, they just read the words. They sing the tune from memory. They've just sung Amazing Grace enough times they kind of know the tune. If they don't know the tune, maybe they just make up their own tune or don't sing. I go to church sometime and there look around. I'm usually in the choir up front, so I can look at the people who are sitting out in the congregation, and about half of them are not singing, at least at my church. I hope everybody sings at your church if you go to church. But anyway, so although there is still a market for sheet music, it's not a real large market. It's not a big player in the music business. There's a pretty good market for educational music. That would be music played by high school bands and college orchestras, church choirs that are composed of people who can read music. But otherwise, there's just not a huge demand for sheet music anymore. There are not many places left, in Alabama anyway, where you can go in a music store and buy a piece of sheet music or a songbook. I think there's one place in Montgomery. There used to be 4 or 5. Nowadays, people who want to buy sheet music get online and go to 2 or 3 websites that have thousands and thousands and thousands of pieces of sheet music, songs and string quartets and choir pieces. Whatever kind of sheet music you want to buy is available online, and you just download it and print it out on your printer. You don't have to worry about going to a music store and trying to find the music. That's how I buy sheet music when I need it nowadays. Of course, I write a lot of my own. I have software in my computer, and I can create my own sheet music, and it'll be just like I want it. But, you know, if I want to play a song by somebody else, I go to one of the websites and pay a couple of bucks and get the piece of sheet music and download it and print it out. Okay, that's the story of sheet music. You've watched this video. On the worksheet you've got, the completion code is 1016. That's 1016. Put that in the blank. And I'll see you on October the 23rd over at LBW. Don't forget, that's test day. Uh-oh. That ain't good. See y'all later. Bye.